so I'm going to talk about engagement of women in nutrition sensitive aquatic food systems in South Asia. We have worked with aquatic food systems in Bangladesh, and and in Nepal, in the Terai, Nepal, and more recently in Odisha and Assam in India. I'd like to present much of the work that we've done in Bangladesh, but also from the other countries. And at the beginning, I'd like to say that these are nutrition-sensitive aquatic food systems. We've also moved it to other parts of the world, for example, countries in Africa, other Asian countries, and also, for example, in Timor-Leste, in the Pacific. So if we see here, the first things that I want to talk about is diversified production systems. Beginning with aquatic food systems, we begin in Bangladesh and in other countries with the household and aquatic food systems, pond polyculture. And can you go back, please, 1 minute? Can you please go back? And here are photos showing the diversification of aquatic food systems, rice fish systems, and also vegetables on the pond dikes in Bangladesh, and we have done in other countries. Next slide, please. Moving from production to supply chains and processing. Here, I show diagrams that show how the aquatic foods, in this particular case, small fish, which are highly nutritious, are used to produce a fish chutney, the bottle to the right, which is used for pregnant and lactating women. It's used as a condiment, a heaped tablespoon, which is equivalent to 60 grams of fresh fish, can be added as a condiment to the main meal of pregnant and lactating women. To the left, the two bottles are of dried small fish, which is ground into a powder and can be added to the foods of all family members, but more importantly, to the foods of young children as complementary feeds. Next slide, please. Moving again to the production systems, one of the important aspects is getting, for example, the fish from the pond to the pot. And one of the innovations that we have worked with is developing nets that can be pulled from the banks by a pulley, so that the woman can get a small amount of small fish for themselves and can move it from the pond to the pot. They are not dependent on other family members to help them get the fish from the ponds to the pot. Interestingly, also, women have started making these nets and selling them, and also repairing these nets, and this gives additional incomes to women in households. Next slide, please. This photo that I'm showing here is from Odisha in India, in the state of India. In Odisha, we have been able to move extremely fast and extremely successful with nutrition-sensitive approaches, which engage women. And this is because the state government of Odisha has been extremely supportive and extremely interesting in moving with nutrition-sensitive approaches, beginning, in my case, with aquatic food systems, but also integrating other innovations across other sectors, for example, in education and in health and nutrition. Here we see women, we've heard before, others mentioned women's self-help groups, about how important this organizational mechanism in India is for getting women together. So groups of 10 have been given the right to use community tanks. And within these tanks, they produce a diverse fish species, and the state government has been extremely helpful. Over the first 3 years, we've reached over 6,000 self-help groups. Each group has 10 women. And last year in December, the government of Odisha took a policy decision that all 64,000 Gram Panchayat tanks in Odisha will be handed over to self-help groups of women for fish production. Next slide, please. Women are engaged across the aquatic food systems, also in the supply chains and in the selling of fish. And here we see that we have diverse fish species which are offered for sale in markets. And this is because with a nutrition sensitive approach, we do not produce very few species of fish, but we produce diverse fish species, both large and small. And interestingly, we're using social behavior change mechanisms and nutrition education, we have been able to promote the important nutritional value of small fish, especially for women and young children. Next slide, please. Again, this is from India, showing solar drying of fish from the coastal areas in Odisha. And we have been able to work together with the state government and other partners with funding from the World Bank to get self-help groups to work with solar drying of small fish. This is important because not only does this reduce the time that women spend in drying fish, it increases the quality and it reduces loss. Next slide, please. We have been able in Odisha, in other states in India and Assam, and in other countries across South Asia and in other parts of the world, to include and integrate aquatic foods within school feeding programs, and also within the midday meal in school feeding programs, and also in the take-home rations for pregnant and lactating women and adolescent girls. And this has proved to be extremely successful. And with very good cooperation with the different sectors, we can have very strong nutrition-sensitive aquatic food approaches that takes into account the whole of the food system, from production to supply chains and all the way to consumption, especially for the poor and vulnerable. Next slide, please. It's extremely important in going forward that policies and investments and programs are put in place, and that it's over the multiple sectors and that there's alignment with state and government policies. And here you see that within the strategy for Odisha pathway to accelerated nutrition, the state government is promoting fish-based nutrition, and thereby with the inclusion of nutrition-sensitive production approaches in the fisheries master plan, and then moving to the Angawati centers for the use of these products, we have been able to move very quickly with nutrition-sensitive approaches in Odisha, and as I said, other places as well. Importantly, at the state level and at the national level, the inclusion of fish and other aquatic foods in national and state-based dietary guidelines will be a very big step in promoting nutrition-sensitive aquatic food systems innovations. Next slide, please. I wish to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today. And I wish especially to acknowledge the WorldFish teams across the board in the countries in which we work, the state and national governments in the countries that we also work, and also national partners. Thank you so much.